G'day folks, and welcome to the Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway update for November 2020. Where's the year gone? Now in the last update we've been working over here on Little Bardfield and getting on with some of the scenery basics here and backgrounds and all that sort of thing. Not a lot visually really has been done on this side of things this month, and I've also been away for a little while, so we'll just go through what's happened here and I can show you some of the updates. Okay, as you can see, I've got the basic shape of the scenery there, the landform, and that's done in polystyrene, and I've still got my little handles sticking up out of the scenery there. And that extends now all the way around to the other side of the railway, where we have a small section here which I think will be now removable, because under here I've also got this panel which can be taken off if necessary to access that track under there. It's not likely to come off that often, but I think originally I was going to glue this section of scenery down, but I think I might leave it as it is now. It just makes life a little easier, especially if we have some problems. I've scratch built a little bridge here to go over the opening in the wall, and that goes in front of this background, which now goes all the way around the scene here. So we've got, this is the start of the scene here, and this is my fiddle yard down below this, but technically the layout begins here, and so I've got it to go right around and continue on and join up with what was there previously. So the bridge is an integral part of the scenery, and the idea is to suggest that the bridge just goes across between two hills, or there's a cutting through the hill, you know what I mean. And I've also put some retaining walls in here that lead up to the bridge, and you may notice a little shed down there, which is a Hornby standard line side hut of some description. I've painted all that up. Now that actually covers one part of the linkage to the point, so it disguises it in effect, and I'm quite happy with how that's gone. I've fitted a window into it and distressed it suitably to sort of suit the scene there. You may also notice that I've continued the retaining wall on behind or beyond the bridge onto the other side to give that visual sense of continuity in the scene. And I've also stuck some back scene on the wall behind the bridge. It's normally out of view here, but you can only sort of see it down at these levels, and it just looked better to me and feels right, instead of just having you look through and see the existing blue wall that's there, or possibly a black hole. It just gives that sense of continuity of the background, or the scene if you like, and I think it looks pretty good. I'll show you the other sides, and I'll show you the all the secrets of what's involved in it. Okay, this is the other side behind that board that sort of seals off that side of the layout. So you can see the little retaining walls there that continue on. I'll just zoom down a bit closer onto them. So nothing fancy there, they're just glued in place behind that scene. And then the bit of scenery that you could see through the tunnel opening there, or the bridge opening, is this piece here. So it's just a small piece stuck on the wall, but it's quite effective, and I think I may even change that for a different sort of scene to make it even look a bit better than it is actually. Back on the other side here, I've had a problem. There's one of the tile spacer bell cranks that was underneath here. I can't actually show you the piece, but you can see that rod there that comes out from the tie bar. That connects up to a bell crank, which is a tile spacer. Then there's another rod back to the little house there, the little shed, and there's a tile spacer bell crank under there. They're both fine, but below the house and on the underneath side of the board there was another tile spacer which failed, and it's in the most inaccessible, hardest to reach spot on the whole layout, of course. So I had to pull all this out again. This half of the layout, which is pretty much the whole station area, this side here and the piece here, it all had to come out so I could repair it. And I fitted one of my standard original bell cranks in there, and that should, hopefully, fingers crossed, that should do the job. The control panel is now pretty much complete. I have a working controller in there which works rather well, and I can give you a demo of how it works. Okay, all these sidings have isolating switches on them, including the passing loop and the branch line, or the line through the station area there. At the moment the controller is set in the mid position direction wise, so we'll change the direction to go that way, to the left, and the controller is in the off position. So we'll turn on the isolating sections for the siding. We'll also turn on the isolating section for the passing loop and for the platform area. We need to also set some points, so number 3 is already set, and we've set number 4 to go out to the far end of the platform. So fingers crossed everything should work now, and we will just apply some power to the train, and it should leave the siding and make its way out to beyond the platform. Now we've just stopped the train. We will change the points to the through line on the platform itself, and we'll change direction and bring the train back in to the platform. Right, with the DMU isolated, we should be able to now bring this loco out into the area as well if we wish to. So points are set, and this loco can leave the siding. We can change the points again and put it into a different siding simply by changing the isolating switch, so we can bring this one back now into a different siding. And we can also send the DMU on its way to Great Chesterford Junction. So now we're at this stage on the railway here, folks, where I've got 3 operational stations electrically. Little Bardfield used to be the ham in the sandwich, if you like, and trains used to just pass through there. But now it's a fully functioning system on its own. So I've got 3, if you like, independent stations that can be operated. So what I need to do then is to carry on with the original intention. The original plan was to operate this railway with some sort of a bell code instrument type system, and I've given that some thought for many years on how to actually approach it, and so I think I'm just about there now. And so what it means is there will be a number of these little panels made up like this. This is just a prototype. Forget about the big black circle in the middle. That's for the knob, so that when I'm designing it on the computer I know exactly how big the knob is and where it will be placed. So instead of having bells on my system, which was the original intention, but I thought eventually it might drive the neighbours crazy with bells going off out here in the shed. There's neighbours right next to the wall here, and you can imagine a late night session with ding 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 ding, all these bell codes going off, so I wouldn't be too popular. So I've got some little electronic buzzers which are very cheap, and it's more of a muted sound, and I think it suits a room better actually as well, because if you had bells in here I would require 4 bells altogether, which means I've got 4 of these panels to make, and you would have to change the pitch of each bell, which is not hard to do. You can just put a bit of a bend in the bell and it changes the pitch of the bell. However, you know, with bells going off in here all the time, I think, you know, I'd start going a bit gaga myself. So this system will operate with a little buzzer and push button switch, and there will also be indicator LEDs on these panels as well. And what it will do in effect is work like an old time system where one signal box contacts the next one, says, is the line clear, is it okay to send you a train? The signal box responds, yes, the line is clear, you can send me a train, blah blah blah, all that sort of thing. So that's the sort of operation I'm trying to work towards. At the same time, if I'm on my own, I can set it up so that I can just run a shuttle from Great Chesterford up to Bamford and let that run automatically. So you can override the system. That's the plan, but it should be a bit of fun, especially when I've got 2 grandsons out here, so sending each other trains and little buzzers going off and all that sort of thing. So I look forward to finally getting that sorted out. I think I've actually worked out the various issues with it electrically, and it will involve using some relays and everything, so I can have, basically what I'm going to have is a big dead section of track in the workshop, and there's a storage room out the back here behind me where the trains climb up to Bamford. Again, that will be a dead section and only operational when you're sending a train to or from the various stations. So that's how it's going to work. 2 big isolated sections of track that are only operational when trains are passing from station to station. That's the theory. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, okay. Now we can move on to something else that's happened as well. One of my subscribers in Canberra, here in Australia, Chris, is interested in model trains, and it's his hobby, but his other hobby is also 3D printing. And Chris contacted me some days ago and asked me if I'd be interested in some of his models that he's made and to use on my railway, and to try them out, give him some feedback, see what I think of them and all that sort of thing, which is fair enough. And so yeah, one of the things he sent me is this buffer stop, which is very, very nice detail. And what he's done is printed the track as well. And you might think, well, you know, why would you do that? But if you think about it realistically or practically, if you've got that siding that's waiting for a buffer stop, and you go out and buy a proprietary buffer stop, sometimes you'll have trouble fitting them in snugly into the rails, and it's usually down to the sleeper spacing. Sometimes the sleepers move a little bit and things don't quite push in as they should. However, with this system you don't have to worry about that. All you've got to do, all you've got to do is actually place this at the end of the siding, glue it in position, obviously paint it and all that sort of thing, is done. It's also a dead piece of track, so you're not going to get any current flowing through this plastic, folks. So I think it's a novel approach, and I think it's come up really well. I don't know whether you guys can sort of appreciate the detail there, but that's quite a nice little buffer stop, and so I'll be installing those at some stage on my railway. I've still got a couple of sidings that need some buffer ends. Actually, some just over here need buffer ends. So yeah, so that'll be good. There's a couple of those. Now, the other goodies we've got here. This little earth mover is another thing that Chris has printed out because he was seeing how viable it is to print these things, because the cost of model cars, etc., model vehicles, is getting quite high. So these items print out rather cheaply. So what this needs is painting, obviously, and there's various types, various ways, I should say, how you can print the model that you're doing. You know, it's a bit like a printer that you use in your home at the moment for printing pictures, etc., and text. You can set it to draft, normal, best quality, all that sort of thing. Well, I think there's a lot more to play with on a 3D printer as far as settings go. So you can test these things and see how they turn out. And this one was printed out as basically as a draft copy, so that the texture is a little bit coarse. However, the idea is there. That's the idea, and you could make a finer print of that, or you could just do a bit of sanding, or use it as a background vehicle. I mean, if this is about 3 foot away from you folks, it's going to look like $1 million when it's painted up. So yeah, so Chris is into all sorts of things with his 3D printing. Very useful item here that he's I've got a box full of stuff here, folks. This is a ramp for loading vehicles onto rail. This is only a short version, pretty much just to test out how it works in principle, and it works fine. So you could get a 4-wheel wagon on there and just roll it down to the track. It's on, bang. You could use it with a coach, but you'd have to hold one end of the coach at this length. This is not quite long enough for a coach, and it's again printed out in a slightly coarse setting. However, that has a bonus in that the roadbed there feels like it's got slight corrugations in it. Now, if you put a wagon on there, it will actually sit there and won't roll away. You don't always want to put the wagon on and then whoop, let it roll straight away. So I think that's a happy accident, if you like, with that one. Another very useful item. And there's also a back-to-back gauge here, which Chris prints out slightly oversized. This is 14.5 millimeters back-to-back, and he prints them out slightly oversized because he tells me that sometimes the product can shrink slightly when it's curing, so he wanted to get this accurate, so he prints it out oversized and then sands it back slightly to the correct measurement. Now, I've got a brass one of these, but I tell you what, because of the handle diameter on this and its length, it's much nicer to hold, and you feel as though it's a bit more controllable in your fingers. So all I'm saying to you folks is that those of you who have 3D printers can apparently download designs that are on the net and all that sort of thing, and get stuck into it. You can save yourself a few bob by actually printing these things out yourself. There's also some point motors here, based on research Chris has done, and known models as well. I won't pull them out of the bag, but there's those. So it's all very useful stuff. A re-railer based on Atlas track that just needs rails glued into it. You would get a section of track, remove some sleepers, and then glue the rails into that. That could be very handy in fiddle yards, all that sort of thing. But if you don't have a 3D printer, old Atlas set track does one of these, which is a good idea for fiddle yards. You don't want things derailing in fiddle yards. He's also gone to the trouble of printing out a concrete tunnel portal, and you can see it's good thickness and everything. There's a good bit of weight to that. I think a paint job would transform that into something unique. I'm not quite sure whether I can use it myself, however I'm thinking about it. So we'll put that one in the I'm dropping things now. Put that one into the basket for thinking about later. And the other thing is Barrow Crossing. This is a little Barrow Crossing with ramps, and again you would have to remove some sleepers and then just glue this in place. But there is a slight pattern on here because of the standard of the printing, which in effect actually looks like wood grain. So I think that's a bonus with that one. And he's also done a version without the ramps, which is like that. It's got the square ends, the butt ends. Yeah, so thanks Chris for all those bits and pieces. There's a couple of other things I haven't mentioned, but yeah, I'll seriously look at how I can use some of these items on my railway. The other thing I've done here is I've got myself a Cda Handheld Controller, and I did have a controller that I'd built myself in this situation here, but I want to use that for another purpose, so I've acquired this Cda controller from, I got it out at Cda Hobbies at Liverpool. And this is an analog controller, of course, and it's you can see it's fairly big for a handheld, but it sits nicely in your hand. No hidden things to know about it really, and it's got a nice smooth acceleration on it. So you go from off up the top here down to full down there, and with most of my locos they're not kicking in until I'm sort of getting about halfway along, I would say roughly. This controller normally comes with a 5-pin plug, as in audio plug. However, the system I have here, I quite often have grandchildren operating here, so I don't want somebody walking away and pulling the plug out of the board here. So what I use is, I believe they're used in aircraft for microphones, and this has actually got the 5-pin sleeve over it now, but that's a microphone plug for apparently aircraft, and it has this ring on here which actually screws onto the socket in the panel, and so it won't pull out, and it's a nice connection. So I just literally swapped the plugs over, and I'm in business. This thing comes with 2 meters of lead, so it's good for a walk around, and it's an all metal case. So what I've done on the panel here is fitted, that's a big circular magnet behind there. I've put some, it's got a hole in the middle of it, so I can just screw it into the board there. Put some black electrical tape on there to protect the back of the controller, and you simply just put it on. It's held magnetically. Well, I don't think there's much else I can tell you, folks. I've just got to carry on working out the block control here now. Get these stations set up properly electrically. Although I can run trains now from station to station with the system I've got in place, but the block system will be a bit more fun too. So anyway, that's all I've got for you this month, so I'll leave you with it, and stay safe, and I'll see you next month. Cheers, Gormo.